Welcome back to episode number 3 of my Eat Smart series, where today we're going to be talking about fats. So, in episodes 1 and 2, we spoke about protein and carbohydrates, and it's been really great to share some more of my experience with you as a bodybuilder and a personal trainer. So, I'm looking forward to delving into the world of fats and helping you understand more about fats that are in the foods that we eat, but also how to incorporate fats into your diet. At the end of today's video, I'll be giving you an update into how my own prep is going as I get ready for my next bodybuilding show. As always, remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell to alert you every time I post a new video every Monday. Now, please always do bear in mind that the information I share in my videos is based on my own experience, and the way that you then sculpt your diet around what I'm sharing is completely up to you. But I'm hoping that sharing what I've learned is going to help you learn, and you can take some of the information that I'm sharing into your own lifestyle. Now, always bear in mind that it's key to have goals in place and understand what it is you're looking to achieve. Now, the topic of fats for me is an interesting one. On reflection, I think I've always certainly at the start of becoming a competitor, associated the word fat with gaining weight rather than looking at it as a macronutrient found in foods. So over the years, I've been able to learn more about fats, what foods include them, and how that fits into my lifestyle to facilitate my goals. At the moment, I follow a flexible dieting approach. So I always keep my protein intake nice and high, and then I split the rest of my calories over carbohydrates and fat, depending on what phase I'm in. Now, I want to start by airing a common misconception when it comes to fats. Now, a lot of people assume that including fat in your diet will promote weight gain. The same question came up last week when we spoke about carbohydrates. Now, if you can overconsume on food, then you're going to more than likely gain weight. And that doesn't matter if that's carbohydrates, protein, or fats. If you eat more than you burn, you're going to facilitate weight gain. Another common question I often get asked is, can fats be good for you? My answer is always the same, and that's yes. So what I'd like to do is help you understand a bit more about what fats actually do. Fats are a major storage form of energy in the body, and generally speaking, moderate amounts are needed in the diet to promote health. Fats help the body absorb and transport vitamins and minerals. They also help protect your organs and offer the body insulation. When looking to include fats in your diet, you can do this through a wide variety of different foods. So the most common foods that include fat are things like oily fish, avocados, eggs, butter, peanut butter, lots of different foods we can cover there. Now, what you want to try and do is use a range of those depending on what your goals are and what your targets are, and look to use fats that are going to digest really nicely for you and foods that you enjoy. There's a variety of different fats found in foods. The most well-known are saturated and unsaturated. And as a calorie, fats are 9 calories per 1 gram, and protein and carbohydrates are 4 calories per 1 gram. So you can see there when dieting, that's why fats can go quite low, because it means that you can have more than double the amount of carbs or protein there for the same amount of calories. A sensible recommendation would be to get around 15 to 30% of your calories from fat in your diet. If you're looking at a goal of changing your body composition, I'd always recommend that you track your calories and protein as a minimum. And then if you wanted to, you could split the rest of your calories through preference over carbs and fat. If you're able to target your nutrition a little bit more, we can look to set daily targets for carbs and fat as well as your protein. This is where working with a coach can sometimes help, You can set targets based on what your goals are with their help. Some basic recommendations I would give you are: eat every 3 to 5 hours if you can. Include fats that digest well for you and that you enjoy. If you can, aim for oily fish twice a week. That would be a really good start. And look to include a variety of different fats within your diet, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on in the video. I personally supplement with omega-3 fish oil. I'm yet to meet someone that can hit the daily requirements through food alone. So that's something that I've done for a number of years now, and it's something you might want to consider. Depending on what you're looking to achieve and how far you want to go into it, there's a lot of different things you can start to consider. It can honestly be quite a mind warp sometimes looking at nutrition, especially if you look at the news online. There's a lot of different things that you see that can be quite hard to understand where you need to target your nutrition. So, you've got examples with things like, should I eat red meat? It's often thrown around that red meat is associated with a higher risk of things like diabetes. Now, what you want to bear in mind is a couple of things here. One is that the association with red meat increasing the risk of diabetes is the amount of iron you find in red meat. So if you then cut red meat out and you've been having it, a few times a week, do you then look to replace that with something that's going to avoid you becoming deficient in iron? Maybe not. The second thing is to look at this with a logical mind, that a lot of studies and reports that you see, online or wherever it is you get your information from, they can be based on general population or targeted groups of people that you as an individual may not directly correlate with. So it's important to bear in mind that, having something like red meat, if you enjoy it in your diet and you're having it 2 or 3 times a week, then it's probably not going to cause you any problems. It's like when you hear things like bananas cause constipation, or don't eat dairy because it's going to make you bloated. And the point I'm trying to get across here is this is very, very individual. Now, if you get problems with bananas, dairy, red meat, then don't eat them. If you don't, then you're more than likely going to be okay with including those foods in your diet. A question I often get asked is, am I allowed to eat chocolate? Now, without sounding too direct, I'm allowed to eat whatever I want. I choose to not eat certain foods at certain times to facilitate what my goal is. And that's a decision that I make. But I don't tend to ban certain foods or label foods as bad for me. And, things like chocolate, I enjoy. I eat things like protein bars that include chocolate. I like chocolate flavoured protein powder, as an example. So for me to try and cut out chocolate would be unrealistic, and I quite frankly wouldn't want to do that. This is where counting calories comes into play. If you can include foods like chocolate and you want to, and you can account for them under a calorie target, then it's much easier to make decisions with your own nutrition. Now, before we move on, I want to open up the floor, getting some comments from you guys with questions about carbs, fat, or protein. I'd love to try and help you learn a little bit more with any of those questions you might have. So make sure you comment below. Anything goes. So when it comes to fats, you often have 2 different camps. You've got your unsaturated fat, which is classed as your good fats. So things like avocados and nuts. And then you've got your saturated fats, where you're looking at things like butter or cream. And these are often labelled as bad fats. Another consideration is trans fats. So trans fats are the ones that are found in more processed foods. So you can make decisions as to what sort of fats you want to include in your diet. Potentially looking at a good amount of your fats coming from unsaturated fats, and then you can consider if you'd like to include saturated and trans fats within your diet. There's plenty of simple swaps you can make, especially when dieting, when you're looking to bring your fat levels down. So an easy one that I tend to use is I swap cooking with things like olive oil for items like Fry Light, which is a cooking spray, which is very low on calories. But then I can also consider, if I want to keep olive oil in my diet, I could look to use that as maybe a dressing. So I'm still having olive oil in my diet, but I could maybe replace things like sauces or processed dressings. So that's going to then look to aid better overall health from having the olive oil instead of a processed sauce. And I'm reducing my calories by cooking with the Fry Light. So you can see that has a knock-on effect. Now let's look at how we can incorporate the different foods into your diet. So fats not only taste good, but they often offer a slightly different texture to your food. So things like avocados, peanut butter, really nice and creamy. And simple things I like to look at can help take quite a plain meal into something that's a different palate experience. So one of my favourite things I like to do is add some peanut butter to my chicken. So if I'm having plain chicken, rice and broccoli, say, adding that peanut butter just adds a slightly different experience for me. I also sometimes add a bit of reduced fat butter to my potatoes. So it's just keeping that variety in my diet and my food tasting good. When I look at structuring my day around fats, I tend to have one higher fat meal a day. So that will be something like salmon or steak. And then I pretty much split my fats evenly over the rest of my 4 meals. And that works really nicely to satiate me and keep a variety of different foods in there. Another thing I like to do is mix things around with things like nuts. So I'll try different types within my diet, and also things like nut butters. So sometimes I have peanut butter, sometimes I have almond butter. So there's lots of different options there. When it comes to understanding what fats are in different foods, you can look at labels. You can also search on Google. You can use food trackers like MyFitnessPal to look at the different fat contents. A little example for you here is, so things like nut butters, like peanut butter and almonds, are around the same sort of content, give or take, per 100 grams. And then you can see here avocado is lower per 100 grams. So this is where you start to look at portion sizes. So if you were to work out around 30 grams of the peanut butter or the almonds, that's going to equate to the same amount as 100 grams of avocado. So it's a lot more realistic when you're looking at the ratios based on portion sizes. You can also look to incorporate a variety of different dairy products. If you like things like cheese, you could maybe look at having that there. I remember once I got asked if sweets contain fat. They're often one of the foods that are on the naughty list. And actually things like your Haribos don't include fat. Naturally, things like your sweet treats, cakes, biscuits do have fat in them. And so it's something to consider if you're looking to incorporate those types of foods into your diet. There's always going to be decisions to make when it comes to food. It's a bit like when we spoke about chocolate earlier. I feel it would, for me, definitely be unrealistic if I was to say I'm never going to have chocolate again. The same goes for cakes and sweet treats. Would it be fair on myself to say you're never going to have birthday cake again because it's bad for you or you've heard somewhere that you shouldn't have it? It would be putting yourself under pressure when you don't need to do that. What you want to consider is all of the different things that contribute to you achieving your goals and how your nutrition needs to facilitate you achieving them. Before I give you my prep update, I just want to say to you, if you have goals in mind and you're taking action towards them, then be kind to yourself, be willing to learn and understand that this is a journey. But if you can set yourself up for success and make informed decisions, it's going to make that journey a lot more enjoyable. So I've just finished a deload week. Now, in previous videos, I explained that my training fatigue had increased. I was suffering with lower energy levels around my training sessions, and things were becoming a lot harder. So I was getting things like cramp. My mood was starting to become a little bit affected. This is all common things that often happen with long periods of dieting. But after speaking with my coach, we made the decision to have a deload week where I took out some of my harder lifts. So I was still able to train, but reducing the weight that I was lifting. And this has helped restore my energies, get me back on track with my recovery, and just take the edge off, avoiding going into a crash and burn essentially. So I'm back to full training mode, feeling good, hungry for it, and ready to crack back on with my prep. So I look forward to updating you next week as to how that's all gone, and hopefully it will be numbers pushing up in the gym, feeling good, energy back, and getting that zest back for my competition, which I'm on track for on December the 7th of this year in Portugal. I really do hope you've enjoyed this episode. Next week, we're going to be talking a bit more about macronutrients and how to track those as part of your lifestyle. If you like this video, remember, hit that like button. Any comments would be awesome, and I hope to see you next week. But for now, peace out.